So You Want to Be a Wizard by Diane Duane. Prologue, Preliminary Determinations. An aptitude for wizardry requires more than just the desire to practice the art. There are certain inborn tendencies and some acquired ones that enable a person to become a wizard. This chapter will list some of the better documented of wizardry characteristics. Please bear in mind that it isn't necessary to possess all of the qualities listed, or even most of them. Some of the greatest wizards have been lacking in the qualities possessed by almost all others and have still achieved startling competence levels. Slowly at first, then more eagerly, Nita began working her way through the assessment chapter, pausing only to get a pencil and scrap paper from the checkout desk so that she could make notes on her aptitude. She was brought up short by the footnote to one page. Where ratings are not assigned, as in rural areas, the area of greatest population density will usually produce the most wizards, due to the thinning of the world walls with increased population concentration. Nita stopped reading, amazed. Thinning of world walls. Were they saying that there are other worlds, other dimensions, and that things could get through? Things or people? She sat there and wondered. All the old fairy tales about people falling down wells into magical countries, or slipping backward in time or forward into it, did this mean that such things could actually happen? If you could actually go into other worlds, other places, and come back again? Oh, who would believe anybody who came back and told a story like that, even if they took pictures? But who cares, she answered fiercely, if only it could be true. She turned her attention back to the book and went on reading, though skeptically. The whole thing still felt like a game, but abruptly it stopped being a game with one paragraph. Wizards love words. Most of them read a great deal, and indeed one strong sign of a potential wizard is the inability to get to sleep without reading something first. But their love for and fluency with words is what makes wizards a force to be reckoned with. Their ability to convince a piece of the world, a tree, say, or a stone, that it's not what it thinks it is, that it's something else, is the very heart of wizardry. Words skillfully used, the persuasive voice, the persuading mind, are the wizard's most basic tools. With them, a wizard can stop a tidal wave, talk a tree out of growing, or into it, freeze fire, burn rain, even slow down the death of the universe. That last, of course, is the reason there are wizards. See the next chapter. Nita stopped short. The universe was running down. All the energy in it was slowly being used up. She knew that from studying astronomy. The process was called entropy, but she'd never heard anyone talk about slowing it down before. She shook her head in amazement and went on to the correlation section at the end of the chapter, where all the factors involved in the makeup of a potential wizard were listed. Nita found that she had a lot of them, enough to be a wizard if she wanted to. With rising excitement, she turned to the next chapter, Theory and Implications of Wizardry. The heading said, History, Philosophy, and the Wizard's Oath. 50 or 60 eons ago, when life brought itself about, it also brought about to accompany it many powers and potentialities to manage the business of creation. One of the greatest of these powers held aloof for a long time, watching its companions work, not wishing to enter into creation until it could contribute something unlike anything the other powers had made, something completely new and original. Finally, the lone power found what it was looking for. Others had invented planets, light, gravity, space. The lone power invented death, and bound it irrevocably into the worlds. Shortly thereafter, powers joined forces and cast the lone one out. Many versions of this story are related among the many worlds, assigning blame or praise to one party or another. However, none of the stories change the fact that entropy and its symptom, death, are here now. To attempt to halt or remove them is as futile as attempting to ignore them. Therefore, there are wizards to handle them. A wizard's business is to conserve energy, to keep it from being wasted. On the simplest level, this includes such unmagical-looking actions as paying one's bills on time, turning off the lights when you go out, and supporting the people around you in getting their lives to work. It also includes a great deal more. Because wizardly people tend to be good with language, they can also become skillful with the speech, the magical tongue in which objects and living creatures can be described with more accuracy than in any human language. And what can be so accurately described can also be preserved, or freed to become yet greater. A wizard can cause an inanimate object or animate creature to grow, or stop growing, to be what it is, or something else. A wizard, using the speech, can cause death to slow down, or go somewhere else and come back later, just as the lone power caused it to come about in the first place. Creation, preservation, destruction, transformation, all are a matter of causing the fabric of being to do what you want it to do, and the speech is the key. Nita stopped to think this over for a moment. It sounds like if you know what something is, truly know, you don't have any trouble working with it, like my telescope. If it acts up, I know every piece of it, and it only takes a second to get it working again. To have that kind of control over everything, live things, the world even. She took a deep breath and looked back at the book, beginning to get an idea of what kind of power was implied there. The power conferred by use of the speech has, of course, one insurmountable limitation, the existence of death itself. As one renowned senior wizard has remarked, entropy has us outnumbered. No matter how much preserving we do, the universe will eventually die, but it will last longer because of our efforts. And since no one knows for sure whether another universe will be born from the ashes of this one, the effort seems worthwhile. No one should take the wizard's oath who is not committed to making wizardry a lifelong pursuit. The energy invested in a beginning wizard is too precious to be thrown away. Yet there are no penalties for withdrawal from the art, except the knowledge that the universe will die a little faster because of energy lost. On the other hand, there are no prizes for the service of life, except life itself. The wizard gets the delight of working in a specialized area, magic, and gets a good look at the foundations of the universe and the way things really work. It should be stated here that there are people who consider the latter more of a curse than a blessing. Such wizards usually lose their art. Magic does not live in the unwilling soul. Should you decide to go ahead and take the oath, be warned that an ordeal of sorts will follow, a test of aptitude. If you pass, wizardry will ensue. Yeah, Nita thought, and what if you don't pass? Nita, Mrs. Lesser's voice came floating down the stairs, and a moment later she herself appeared, a large brunette lady with kind eyes and a look of eternal concern. You still alive? I was reading. So what else is new? They're gone. Thanks, Mrs. L. What was all that about, anyway? Oh, Joanne was looking to pick a fight again. Mrs. Lesser raised an eyebrow at Nita, and Nita smiled back at her shamefacedly. She didn't miss much. Well, I might have helped her a little. I guess it's hard, Mrs. Lesser said. I doubt I could be nice all the time myself if I had that lot on my back. That the only one you want today, or should I just have nonfiction section boxed and sent over to your house? No, this is enough, Nita said. If my father sees too many books, he'll just make me bring them back. Mrs. Lesser sighed. Reading one book is like eating one potato chip, she said. So you'll be back Monday. There's more where that came from. I'll check it out for you. Nita felt in her pockets hurriedly. Oh, crud, Mrs. L., I don't have my card. So you'll bring it back Monday, she said, handing her back the book as they reached the landing. And I'll stamp it then. I trust you. Thanks, Nita said. "Don't mention it. Be careful going home," Mrs. Lesser said, "and have a nice read." "I will." Nita went out and stood on the doorstep, looking around in the deepening gloom. Dinner time was getting close, and the wind was getting cold with a smell of rain to it. The book in her hand seemed to prickle a little, as if it were impatient to be read. She started jogging toward home, taking a circuitous route, up Washington from Rose Avenue, then through town along Nassau Road and down East Clinton, a path meant to confound pursuit. She didn't expect that they would be waiting for her only a block away from her house, where there were no alternate routes to take. And when they were through with her, the 6 of them, one of Nita's eyes was blackened, and the knee Joanne had so carefully stomped on felt swollen with liquid fire. Nita just lay there for a long while on the spot where they left her, behind the O'Donnells' hedge. The O'Donnells were out of town. There she lay and cried, as she would not in front of Joanne and the rest, as she would not until she was safely in bed and out of her family's earshot. Whether she provoked these situations or not, they kept happening, and there was nothing she could do about them. Joanne and her hangers-on had found out that Nita didn't like to fight, wouldn't try until her rage broke loose, and then it was too late. She was too hurt to fight well. All her self-defense lessons went out of her head with the pain, and they knew it, and at least once a week found a way to sucker her into a fight. Or, if that failed, they would simply ambush her. All right, she had purposely baited Joanne today, but there'd been a fight coming anyway, and she had chosen to start it, rather than wait, getting angrier and angrier while they baited her. But this would happen again and again, and there was nothing she could do about it. "Oh, I wish we could move. I wish Dad would say something to Joanne's father." No, that would just make it worse. If only something could just happen to make it stop. Underneath her, where it had fallen, the book dug into Nita's sore ribs. The memory of what she had been reading flooded back through her pain and was followed by a wash of wild surmise. If there are spells to keep things from dying, then I bet there are spells to keep people from hurting you. Then Nita scowled at herself in a contempt for actually believing for a moment what couldn't possibly be more than an elaborate joke. She put aside thoughts of the book and slowly got up, brushing herself off and discovering some new bruises. She also discovered something else. Her favorite pen was gone. Her space pen. A present from Uncle Joel. The pen that could write on butter or glass or upside down. Her pen with which she had never failed a test, even in math. She patted herself all over, checked the ground, searched in pockets where she knew the pen couldn't be. No use. It was gone. Or taken. For it had been securely clipped to her front jacket pocket when Joanne and her group jumped her. It must have fallen out, and one of them picked it up. "Oh!" Nita moaned, feeling bitter enough to start crying again. But she was all cried out, and she ached too much, and it was a waste. She stepped around the hedge and limped the little distance home.